Hey everybody, it's Mark Pattison. I'm back again with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. Before I get to my great guest today, again, a reminder, my website is out. It's new, www.markpattisonnfl.com. I've got a lot of great new stuff going out. The best thing I have happening right now is I've got this new book called Finding Your Summit. It's all about how to build resilience and faith to rise above life's challenges. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. It's on Amazon. I have an Audible book that is coming out in the next couple of weeks. This podcast is being recorded today on the 28th of May. So probably by the time this comes out, it will be available again on Audible via Amazon. So that's cool. I'm doing a lot of keynote speaking. I'm going to Montenegro, a place I've never been before, which is really exciting. I just got done doing a TEDx, and I've got a bunch of other gigs lined up. If you want me to come in and light up your organization, please reach out to my site and we will see where we can take that. Okay, on that note, let's jump into my wonderful guest today. His name is Yuriy. He's got a very complicated last name with every letter in the alphabet, so I'm not going to try to pronounce that. But he is the CEO of Hope for Ukraine. Yuriy, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Mark. Good to speak
Yeah,
to you.
yeah. So just to reset this, so you and I spoke maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and this is kind of I'm getting lost exactly when Russia invaded and just tried to tear apart Ukraine. And there's been a lot of awful things, a lot of optimism around Hope, which is the name of this organization you're with. And there's just impossible living circumstances in this day and age. It's just amazing that this is still going on. But let's reset things on kind of the state of the union on where Ukraine is at in this war that does not seem to end, and it's getting more nasty by the day.
Cool. Yeah, so me and you actually spoke in the end of 2022. That's right when the war started, and we in 2026, and the war's still going on, right? So back in 2022, we operated on Hope engine.
Yeah.
In 2026, we moved to Defiant Hope engine because things just are not getting any better, and a lot of people in the world already forgot about the war there in Ukraine, and I totally understand that because of everything that's going on. But the situation there is worse than ever, and that's why right now, I mean, when we spoke with you a while back, I was thinking that the war is going to be finished in 3 to 6 months, and then we can start rebuilding. But it's been 4+ years already, and there's
Yeah.
no end in sight. And we see much new tactics as far as warfare taking
Yep.
place. So it's very challenging time, but on the other hand, it's also a very interesting time because you see regular people stepping up to the plate that you could never expect, and so it's very interesting time to live in,
Yeah,
definitely.
so let's talk about that. So, okay, so going back to 2022, I'm glad you had that timeline because since I forgot. I also took like a year and a half time out on these podcasts since I've done so many. You'll be, I think, podcast number 300. Thank you for that. But you said and you mentioned something about the tactics, right? And there's an article that you sent me yesterday that I read, and it really had to do with this whole new technology in drones. So
Yeah.
basically, these drones are flying around the air. A lot of times you can't see them. They're so far up, and they've got like an eye in the sky. They can see everything. And so now the various movement that these people in Ukraine, when you normally go out and you might go have coffee at a coffee shop or something like that, I mean, it's almost like you have to live underground because if they spot you, just 1 minute you're ordering a coffee, and the next thing you know, here comes a missile right at you. And they're literally pinpointing, according to this article, pinpointing individuals on the ground and blasting them. And I mean, I can't imagine like how petrified and the state of living somebody might be. As you said, it's elevated to this next level.
Yeah, so we call it human safari right now, right? So basically, back in 2022, some of these areas we used to deliver aid, we could just drive in there without issue, distribute aid, and leave, right?
Mm,
And if you would, right now, we're particularly focusing on the city of Kherson, That's why we do a lot of humanitarian work. Just to give you a breakdown, Kherson still have about 60,000 people living there, right? So it's right across the river where Russians are positioned, right? It's in southern Ukraine. So our missions right now, so when we have a folks loading up the van in western Ukraine with food, hygiene products, everything that civilians need. We drive overnight during the day to staging area about 60 kilometers from the city. Our team consists of 3 people usually. They sleep over there, and they wake up early, like 4 a.m., and try to get in to the city. So you have a driver, the driving the van, you gotta go fast. The only way to save your life and to beat these drones is drive 110 to 140 kilometers an hour. So we have a driver who drives the van with the aid, and you have 2 folks looking through the windows on the lookout and listening to the buzzing noise. Because the drones right now, basically they run the sky over that particular area. So we usually drive in the city. We call Kherson a basement city because people who live there spend most of the time in the basement.
Yeah.
Because every time you get out, you have a chance of not coming home. Just yesterday, we have an incident of family, mother and father, taking their 2 kids to the playground there in the Korabelny region. It's right across the river. And while the kids were playing, the Russian missiles hit, so they killed the father, and they injured the mother, and they injured 2 kids. The kids are 2 girls, 5 and 3 years old. So when we arrive to the city, we have a device that detects the drones. So you have about 2 to 3 hour window, right? You come to the neighborhood, you park your humanitarian aid vehicle under the tree. The folks rushing out of the basement, grab the bag of food, and hide back in. So that's basically the situation there now. And also, we've been dealing with a lot of remote mining. So basically, Russians are using drones to drop mines. So small mines, they call them gingerbread mines. So they look like a donut, right? So basically, you can walk, and if you step on this, you're gonna be either very badly damaged, or you can die, right? And that's specifically the target that they use, the aim that they're trying to hit is civilians, right? Their goal is to demoralize population in that particular city, right? So people would leave and the place would become completely uninhabitable. So what we see right now is basically, since 2022 till now, Russians realize they cannot defeat Ukrainian army. So what they've been doing intensely is waging the war against civilians, waging the war against people who cannot fight back, using the most cowardly types of weapons anyone in the modern war history have seen. So basically, Kherson right now is a total war crime scene. Like the place, some streets have nets. So Ukrainian government trying to protect areas by putting these nets. So the drones because you have 2 dangers. You have drones flying that targeting civilian vehicles, and you have mine drops. So you basically can walk, you can blow up on the mine. So the city is so our mission right now is to save the city. That's why very few groups still work there, because 2022 every NGO in the world was in Ukraine because that was on the news, and everybody was part of the relief efforts there, right? Now the teams that's left, it's teams like ours, right? Basically, we cannot leave, because if we're gonna leave, who's gonna come for these people? You gotta understand that these areas, you cannot have a truck, like normal truck of food deliveries coming like to the supermarket, because every big target you're done.
So let me ask you this. So I get why, if if the goal is to scare everybody into leaving, essentially, by blowing up people however they possibly can. Um, I'm wondering, like, if it were me and I were in that situation, and I can move to the other side of the country or certainly a place that's way more safe, and you're kind of giving in to what they want anyhow, which is to then come across and take over the city. I get all that. But at some point in time, for the safety of your family and just having any kind of a life, why wouldn't these people just move and go to someplace much safer?
It's good that you asked me because just before you, we had an interview with one of our volunteers, right? A news outlet in discussing that particular topic, right? First of all, we still have about 4 million internal displaced people in Ukraine,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So every so-called safe areas on the western side of Ukraine is just priced out of bazillions. So people who live in these areas, they cannot simply afford move somewhere else and rent a place to live. We run internally displaced center in Lviv, Ukraine, right? We currently have about 60 people that live there. Some of the people, so the way our center operates, that we don't give them deadline when to move out. We're trying to keep them there as long as we can find a permanent place. But we have folks who've been there for 2 years, living on a mat, on a bed, and having 2 meals at our center because they just simply cannot find a place to move out. They have no means to live. So we just spoke to one of our volunteers, Natalia, who lives and works in the city with us. Her income is 7,000 hryvnias. So 7,000 hryvnias, that's 4 times 4. That's like $150 a month. That's what she's getting. So with that type of money, you cannot survive anywhere else. So that's the reason you think like those 60,000 people that live in that hellhole, if they could have a way to get out of there, they would do it in a New York minute. They just cannot. There's no
Afford
place
it.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, it's chaos. So let me ask you this, and we're going to jump around just a little bit. And I want to go back to the main thing, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in kind of after we get through this still core part of like the State of the Union, what's going on there right now. But essentially, what the goal as CEO of Hope for Ukraine is to raise money and funds to help those who are displaced. There's pets, there's families, you're getting food in, supplies. So you're out raising money to help place assets and to help them survive day to day on just the basics, food, shelter, clothing, type stuff, right?
Yeah. So our main program, we do two main things in Kherson in particular. We distribute food kits, so the food kit can feed the family of 4 up to 10 days. And we also distribute solar energy resilient kits. So
Mm.
that's basically solar power generator and a cooktop that can give folks a power because most of the city are almost all the time without power, right?
Yeah.
And they can prepare food. So that's basically what we do all the time. That's why the money we raise, the folks who donate, we buy produce in Ukraine actually from local producers. We pack these food kits and then solar power generators, we buy them here in the United States. They ship them from our warehouse in New Jersey, and we distribute them. So far, I mean, last year we distributed 80,000 food kits in Ukraine. So we distribute about 2,000 kits every week. I'm not talking only Kherson region. I'm talking about Sumy region and other places. But that's basically what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Ukraine for a minute. So we've talked about what Russia is doing with these dirty tactics of displacing, demoralizing the Ukrainian people close to the borders of Russia. On the other side of like what's new, or like you said before, they know now that they're not going to defeat the Ukrainian army. Just they're resilient, and they're probably resilient till the bitter end. Um, how has like new technology, probably drones as well, helped out the Ukrainian side to try to push back advances from the Russians?
I mean, since I spoke to you, as far as technological innovations, it's jumped like 10 times, right? So a lot of the weapons now, about I would say about 70% of everything that's used on battlefield is made in Ukraine by Ukrainian engineers. So some of the weapons are made in Europe, right? Because we just don't have enough capacity, but it's all designed in Ukraine, right?
Mhm.
So the only problem we have is we don't have capabilities like Patriot missiles, those type of weapons that shoot down the very advanced Russian technological, missiles. But other than that, we have drone interceptors now. So we have AI-powered drones. We have unmanned evacuation vehicles. A lot of the places near Frontline, you can drive through the highway and you just see unmanned little buggy pulling water to particular destination. So because we are outnumbered as an army, Ukrainians, so they heavily lean on technology to compensate, and we
Mhm.
actually been very successful. They have not had any advances on the battlefield, right? As far as army to army, so that's why they result into these cowardly, tactics to attack civilians, because they want to retake these areas, and they feel like if they're going to drive civilians out from the areas, it's going to be easier for them to occupy, because then Ukrainian army will kind of have to pull back, saying, "Hey, there's no one to protect, so why we standing here, right?"
Yeah.
But Ukraine has made, as far as technology goes, I mean, we've been, we're probably number one in Europe as far as tech goes. There's certain incidents where entire positions of Russian armies have been recaptured by Ukrainians using just technology, robots, drones, without any human beings. So that's how far we have gone as the army.
Yeah, and where do you see the war headed? It was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we'll call it early May, that I thought that I caught that Putin had made some inference that Trump, and who knows what's really going on, like this thing might be coming to a conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Where do where
It's,
do where
it's
do we stand?
I think the only way it's going to come to conclusion when Russian economy is going to collapse, right? So the reason why the Putin cannot end this war is because you have almost 2 million Russian soldiers who are on the front line right now in Ukraine. Imagine you have 2 million folks coming back into your country with all types of mental, people who smell blood every day. What it's going to do to Putin's power and grip on power? Because, Russian economy is not doing well. When you have so many people coming back, you have no jobs, you have no ways to survive, they will uprise against you. So he will keep them on the front line. And let's say if Ukraine, let's say there's some sort of peace treaty happens and there's nothing to do in Ukrainian battlefield, he will direct them to go somewhere else, to go against Baltic states or Poland.
Mm.
He just physically, for him, grip on power is all he got left, right? The guy has money, the guy has, everything else, but, the power is the only thing that's holding him, right? And so that's why the only way this can stop is if they run out of money and he just cannot pay these 2 million people. And the way to do that is, of course, sanctions, of course, the prices of oil have to drop, and that hasn't been happening.
Hmm.
That's why we're still where we are, as a war going on.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. Uh, it's just it's amazing to me how humanity, like history repeats itself people going to war, the millions and millions and millions of people who've been destroyed, families, lives lost, the whole thing. And why these leaders of these various countries just can't like figure it out um, in a way that creates peace and unity and all those things. Because at the end of the day, what's really at stake? They want to take back the country. What's that really going to do for them? Right. So who knows? Okay. So your goal, let's go back to your mission. So you already talked about what you do in terms of the tactics, what you're trying to do to get food, clothing, shelter, other things out to these different people. It's very difficult. You have to do it kind of through the cloak of night, and you make sure you're not detected. In order to do that and run this foundation, this nonprofit, right? You're out raising money, and has that been more of a challenge as we've gone from 2022, when this thing was the front of the news every single night, and now maybe once a month or once a week you might hear a little bit about it, but it's just kind of gone to the back page just because that's the way news cycles work, right? And right now for us, it's this whole Iran thing. So,
Yeah.
yep. So, how difficult and challenging has that been for you?
I mean, it's been grind. I mean, I'm work 7 days a week. I sleep maybe 5 hours every night, and I barely, I haven't taken any vacation all this time because in order to keep awareness going, we have to keep talking to public, right? Because if we cannot raise money, we cannot send the volunteers, we cannot buy food. That's the bottom line, right? So what we've been doing is we updating our social media every hour.
Yeah.
So we have folks who reach out to us, say, "Hi, what you guys do?" I always tell them, just follow one of our links for one day, and you're gonna know what exactly we're doing. And then we trying to really, bring the message of Ukraine back around for folks to understand that the reason why Ukraine's still standing, and it's not because of Zelensky, it's not because of US, it's not because of European Union, it's because of society. It's because of volunteers that's holding that country together. That's 30 million people in Ukraine who regularly chip in to support armed forces of Ukraine. Imagine you get a call from Pentagon today and they ask you to donate money to buy a Bradley vehicle, or how would you react as an American? That's what Ukrainians been doing, right? All these 4 years, it's been, they've been sacrificing ridiculously, right? Some folks, who cannot go in the front like volunteer, like our teams do, right? They, chip in 50% of their salaries to support, to buy drones, to buy. So that's why, I've been working on this book, Define Hope, about ordinary people, extraordinary courage and fight
Yeah.
for Ukraine,
Of course.
to show people in the West that, you don't have to have a super power, abilities. You can be a regular person, but if you have courage, that you can, hold off the second army from capturing your country. And that's what we've been doing. So for us, raising money, it's a challenge each and every day, but we are grateful for every American, for every person around the globe who's been standing for Ukraine, who's been standing with the people, and who's been protecting democracy. Because without support of so many kind folks around the world, we would not be able to do what we do. That's
Yeah.
definitely the truth. Yeah.
And what is your opinion? And maybe, and if you don't want to answer this, then that's fine, because I want to be respectful of what you're doing and the political nature of making sure that you don't,
Mm.
you know, turn anybody against your organization. But in terms of leadership with Zelensky, is he the right guy to help lead your country out of this mess?
We have no choice, right? Like right now, Ukraine cannot hold election, right? When you
Yeah.
have active war, you cannot hold elections, right? So, the history will judge him, right, for I think he did some good things and he did some non good things, right?
Hmm.
But at the present moment, we're not trying to concentrate on what's going on in political realms. And there's been, I'll be quite honest, there's been a lot of nasty stuff that happened during these 4 years on the political side that we've been furious about, right? As a society, as a volunteering teams, right? What's going on? But and the folks have no choice, like they gotta keep on moving and close their eyes what's going on in political circles just to survive, because no one else is coming for them. No one else is coming for that 60,000 people, living in Kherson. It's just this group of brave volunteers who book one-way tickets to bring that food kit to sustain these people, because to be quite honest, if these because there is a place called Oleshki. It's right across the river from Kherson, so that place is currently occupied by Russia.
Hmm.
But there's actually famine going on there now, because there's about 2,000 folks that's locked in that place, and the Russians not letting them out, right? And we have groups who've been trying to deliver food to them, and the drones get shut down and stuff like that. So the people in Kherson don't want to be like Oleshki, right? That's why. So as far as what's going on in the political arena, that's going to be judged after the war is finished. Right now, we have to live as what we got, and hopefully, this madness is going to end, and people come back to some normal life in whatever shape or form. It
Yeah.
cannot be worse. It cannot be worse than it is right now.
No, I get that. I get that. Okay. So let's talk about the thing that is probably as important as anything. Where can people find you? And it's not so much you, but your organization, that if they want to contribute to Hope for Ukraine to
Yeah.
help these poor souls with the basic needs that they're experiencing right now, where can they donate to this great organization?
Yeah, they can go to our website, hfu.org, and you can find everything what we do there. And
hfu.org. So
yeah,
Hope for Ukraine. Okay.
yeah. So that's where we live. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, buddy. First of all, I want to say I'm grateful that you reached out to me. And when you did, I was like, God, I wonder how that guy. And like I said, I thought it was just 2 years ago, but it turns out it was 4 years ago when we had this chat. And as you said, so many things have happened. And the one thing that has come out, clearly is the resilience and grit and determination that the people of Ukraine have had, dug in their heels and like, come hell or high water, we are not going to give up this territory. So to you, to the Ukrainian people, to your organization, I just am hoping for the best, and that next time we talk, we're talking about a great outcome.
Thank you, Mark, for having me, and thank you for your support all this time, all your listeners, and then the book that I've written is going to be coming out in February last year. It's called Define Hope, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Courage, and Fight for Ukraine. So you can pick it up on Amazon everywhere. And it's
Well,
going to be inspirational for you.
yeah, let's talk about the inspiration, but when I want you to reach out to me and we'll get you back on and we'll talk about the book and some of these stories. I can't even imagine some of the stories that you could tell about
It's
this
going to be
person and
great.
that person. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Okay, there he
Beautiful.
is. The
Thank you,
one,
Mark.
the only Yuriy. Thank you so much. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.